Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasnain joins me on this special broadcast. The General has served very extensively on either side of the Pir Panjal ranges, and we'll talk to him about these operations. But for the benefit of viewers who are joining us, I want to give you an overview of the operations that are taking place in Jammu and Kashmir and why terror suddenly is bleeding India south of Pir Panjal ranges. There have been 9 attacks in the past 2 months alone. Now, 14th of August is this encounter that we are talking about. 1 officer killed in action, 1 terrorist neutralized. Then, remember, just 5 days earlier, 10th of August, there was an encounter in Anantnag. That was north of Pir Panjal. So that's the Kashmir area north of Pir Panjal. 4 soldiers were killed in action and 4 were injured. 27th of July, again I'm taking you now north of Pir Panjal to Kupwara in North Kashmir. Another encounter, and we lost a brave heart. Let me bring you down south of Pir Panjal to Rajouri, and Rajouri a little in the hinterland, in the depth area, but that Punch-Rajouri belt south of Pir Panjal near the line of control, there was another encounter. We lost a soldier. On the 15th of July, there was another encounter in this area, Doda, where we lost 3 Jawans, 1 officer and 1 policeman. Then you'd recall 9th of July, Katwa encounter. We lost 5 braves in that encounter. 13th of June, that was the Gando incident. We lost a police officer. Then 12th of June, that was in the Chhatargala encounter. A Pakistani terrorist was killed there. The 9th of June, again, now this was the belt when intensification of operations were taking place. And terrorists, many said these are Pakistani terrorists in Riyasi that targeted Hindu pilgrims. So it's quite a systematic targeting that's taking place south of Pir Panjal. The list of fatalities also extremely high, and we'll show you the statistics. But I want to bring in General Hasnain for more on this. General Hasnain, a contact made, 1 terrorist killed, 4 blood-soaked red rucksacks recovered. If you were, as the co-commander who served extensively in this area, both north and south of Pir Panjal, what picture would you draw from this?
See, first of all, Gaurav, my very deep regrets at this. The officer, Captain Deepak Singh, happens to be a regimental officer of mine.
Yes.
48 RR is my regimental unit, and I deeply regret this. And you have eulogized him tremendously, there's no doubt. He was leading right from the front when he suffered this unnecessarily, the fatality which he suffered. Now, having said that, there's no doubt that for the 1st of August onwards, particularly, that's the demarcating line I'm saying.
Okay.
Before that, we've had a series of almost very negative encounters all along.
Yes.
I've been speaking to some of the people south of the Pir Panjal, and I learn now the Punch-Rajouri Thana Mandi area generally seems to be comparatively much more stable. There has been no encounter in this for a period of almost a month and a half. But it is this Doda, Riyasi and stretching eastwards, this is the area which is causing some worry. More troops have been added here. Fresh troops have been brought in here. It is natural that we are going to find many more encounters taking place. And I'm happy that encounters are taking place, because the whole idea of operating proactively here is to ensure those encounters. The only thing is that we should not lose officers, we should not lose our men.
Yes.
And for that, it is important that we must continue to master our small-scale tactics. Our first 2 minutes of a contact, that's the time when we suffer casualties most of the time. Yes. If I was there at this time, and I'm sure all the commanders, very experienced commanders of the Indian Army, will be passing the same directions. Please be extremely careful of the first 2 minutes of the contact, because that is the time you are on the move, the terrorists are in hiding, and once that situation emanates, obviously they have the advantage for that period. You have to be extremely careful, you have to be extremely watchful. Intelligence, you have to launch these kind of operations essentially on generation of intelligence.
Okay.
These sporadic operations of the squadron and search type or the search and destroy operation don't usually lead to this kind of a positive encounter in our favor.
So these are intelligence-based operations is what I've been told, but the kind of weapons that the terrorists have, the M4, the assault rifle, the night sights, the kind of sights terrorists are using, the military precision of their firing, the fire control that terrorists are displaying, what do you make of this? And again, all these encounters that have been taking place south of Pir Panjal, whether in Poonch, Rajouri, Thana Mandi belt, then it only indicates that the terrorists were earlier in the border belt. Now they're moving towards the hinterland in Doda and, Riyasi, Doda, God forbid. Next they'll be hitting Kishtwar and then Anantnag in Srinagar, sir.
Both, Gaurav, both in terms of human resources, they are definitely of a higher quality. And equipment-wise, I think what Pakistan has invested in is lesser numbers, although in this case, the Pir Panjal is abounding with about 40 to 50 terrorists. Early in erstwhile years, numbers were much more. Yes. But these 40 to 50 terrorists, extremely well equipped, as you have seen with M4 rifles and of that kind, and with night fighting equipment. Now, that is something which was not evident in the earlier years, because we used to come across an odd night sight in one encounter or so. But increasingly, we are finding more and more night fighting equipment coming in here, which is obviously placing them at an advantage when they are in ambush positions, sitting in jungle terrain. Obviously, we will have to neutralize this by more and more operations of ours, domination operations of ours, conducted at night, along with lots and lots of night fighting aids. We don't have any shortage of night fighting aids, I'm aware of this, but we have to gain proficiency in the training and in those aids, and with fresh troops coming in, Assam Rifles troops coming in, we will need to be very, very proficient in all these things.
Sir, I want to understand this from you. Earlier it was said that there are long gaps because we moved an entire division from this area and moved that division to the LAC. Then we were told that a brigade plus has moved in. Some of those gaps have been filled. Additional sources of the Assam Rifles and some others were brought in. All of that has happened. Yet encounters are taking place. In every encounter, the terrorist would have that advantage because he fires first. Is there something that the army can do, that the army has that advantage, that the army is able to spot and neutralize these terrorists? You need more drones in that area, more tactical drones in that area, something that needs to be done that would keep own casualties down.
See, Gaurav, drones are helpful, no doubt. But the kind of vegetation cover which is there in these areas, in these kind of jungles, does not allow drones to be able to penetrate through them. The energy that the drones have normally do not give you that kind of an imprint to be able to give you hotspots where terrorists are holed up. One of the measures, of course, is that you have to do intelligence-generated operations which take you to specific hideouts and specific areas which you are confirmed, your information is confirmed for you. The second thing is, which a lot of people don't do, and that is what is called population control measures. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong, no one is looking for controlling the population of Jammu region. What we are saying, this is a terminology which the military uses, yes, is called population control measures, in which the logistics, which is available to the terrorist cadres, has tremendous amount of restrictions placed on it, which means in that area there are control over the amount of resources which are coming in, which are being moved out. Cement, for example, food items, atta, dal, chawal, and that things of that kind which have to be stocked in the mountains for these terrorists to be able to sustain themselves for some time. The moment you start destroying hideouts, you may have in many of these operations, you may not find a terrorist, you may not kill a terrorist. But if you destroy 2 or 3 hideouts, burn up all the rations there, I can assure you, he is forced to come down. He's forced to come down to another area, a populated area, where you or your intelligence is going to get him. That's how we eliminated a very large number of terrorists in Kashmir way back in 2000, 2001, 2002, with the use of reserve formations, which came in at that time to generate this kind of activity.
More helicopters, can they be rushed in so that troops can mount precise of the moment you have intelligence, instead of troops spending 8 hours climbing, use a helicopter, go higher than the terrorists, land, rappel down and then come down?
Gaurav, you said it absolutely, and this is something that I have employed personally myself on the Pir Panjal. 4 to 6 Me-17 helicopters, even 4 Me-17 helicopters flying in. Instead of doing a search upwards, you're doing a search downwards. It's far, far more lucrative to be able to do a search downwards. Troops are fresh. Troops don't get tired. They can continue working. They can continue a cycle of operations for far longer. So that is the answer. There's no doubt about it. The problem is Something, if you remember, of Operation Sarp-Vinash.
Yes.
Sarp-Vinash 2003 started with the construction of Mi-17 helipads at the higher altitudes.
Absolutely.
Which is what gave us the greatest advantage. Now, this is something which we perhaps need to do once again if these operations are going to extend.
And most likely they will, given the fact that the terror state in our neighborhood, this is its only bread and butter to be able to generate funds to kill people here. Sir, before I let you go in last 30 seconds, the overground workers, I believe one OGW has been taken into custody today. But in case these OGWs exist, then that information should be made public in a much bigger way, and perhaps the harshest possible action under law should be taken against these overground workers of terrorists, irrespective of their religion or political parties' affiliations.
No doubts about that at all, and that's the role of the Jammu and Kashmir police. The SOG normally is very, very good at that. This is something we focused on tremendously in 15 Corps in Kashmir, and this is something which is very difficult in the case of 16 Corps, because 16 Corps operating areas are extensive, far and wide. Yes. They are not concentrated in urban areas the manner in which 15 Corps has got. So it is a major problem, but yes, overground worker networks is something which perhaps 16 Corps or the area south of Pir Panjal did not focus on for very long, because they generally a peaceful environment had been created almost 12 to 15 years ago. This is some kind of operations which they will have to enforce now to ensure that they have the same kind of achievements that we did in Kashmir.
General Hasnain, we will continue to track developments on the story very closely, and this clearly is a warning to those who are, one, either prematurely declaring victory over terrorism south of Pir Panjal, two, calling for removal of the Armed Forces Special Powers Act in this declaration of premature victory over Pakistan, when the terror tap clearly is controlled by Pakistan. General Hasnain, for joining me here, many thanks.